Hey guys, it's Katie at scrappinkaty.ctmh.com, and I have a one-page layout to share with you featuring my children. It is going to be a layout, I guess a Mother's Day layout of sorts, and I used a key from the Everyday Moments Cricut Collection. It is a key that I worked with several times a couple of weeks ago. Here is a look at the key as intended. It is the Floral Frame key. And as you can see, I just took that focal heart down in the bottom and oversized it and then used the slice feature to slice some of those titles out of the paper and the cardstock. So right here, I am just using some liquid adhesive to adhere down this frame piece. Now this is a 1/4 inch frame and I just cut it from the piece that will go in the center of this. Now this is from the Stitch Together line, which is brand new from Close to My Heart starting May 2020, and it'll be available through the end of June. And so right here I am just going to use tape adhesive to tape a piece of peach cardstock to the back of this patterned paper, and that way part of my title will show through. So I'm just going to sandwich this right in the middle of that 1/4 inch frame. And those flowers from the center I just use, since those will be hidden, for some of the flowers that I will be putting together here in just a second. So I'm just going to add adhesive to the back of this heart, and it will get just going to adhere that down onto a piece of peach cardstock. And as you can see, the words kind of go off the bottom of that heart. And then I'm just going to trim. I didn't really get this lined up very well, so I'm just going to take my micro tip scissors and trim around that heart. So I'm just going to finish trimming this up and then lay it down onto my layout base. So you can see that title kind of goes with the title that I sliced out of my cardstock base. Now when you take this heart off of your Cricut mat, you want to be sure you save all the centers. The G and then those 2 H's on that left side have little pieces that will need to get adhered down to finish the letters off. So I'm just doing that with liquid adhesive. Now there is the tiniest little one that I will use my liquid glass and a fine tip applicator to adhere down. So I'm going to finish this up and then just make sure I get any of those little bitty spills cleaned up with my paper towel. And then now I am ready to adhere this big heart down onto my layout base. Now I really just want to make sure that that G is lined up. It's really easy to line up, but when I'm looking to line it up, I'm really looking at that G, and that is kind of my telltale sign that that heart is lined up. So here are the photo mats. Now these photo mats are pretty tiny. 2 3/4 is that sapphire, and then 2 1/2 is that French vanilla. So for the flowers, I've already put those together, and right now I'm just taking these cute wooden buttons that come with the Stitch Together line, and I am just fishing out 12 of the little bitty buttons, and that's what I will use for those flower centers. So I'm just going to measure out that mat, and it is that French vanilla is 2 1/2. So I'm just going to trim all 4 of these photos just a little bit less than 2 1/2. Now I have a photo of various stages in my life and in my kids' life, but I have a photo of each of them with me. And then it was pretty hard to find photos that I guess our heads are small enough. So you saw on the 2 of my middle boys, I had to actually use an app to get those at 3 or 4x3 photos, and then I cut them apart. So I'm just going to use tape adhesive to adhere these down onto the French vanilla photo mats, as well as that sapphire cardstock. Now I hope you can see that rich blue in that line, and I just love it added to these bright colors of the Stitch Together paper. So now that I have all those, I'm going to kind of lay them out. And then I am going to start adhering them down. Now I am putting them in order from left to right of their ages. And so I'm going to adhere down that center one and then that right edge one. And then I'm going to use 3D foam adhesive to add some dimension to the other 2. And so this is a photo of my oldest. and then a photo of our youngest son. And then I'm just going to peel off that backing and adhere those down. So now I'm going to come in with the flowers. Now I am going to play with just these flowers just a little bit. I do have my tablet up with how I designed it in Design Space, so I am kind of looking over there to see how it looks. But the spacing is a little bit different when it's actually cut. So I'm going to put these down, and then I definitely am going to kind of play with the placement. I also don't want any of those mint polka dot flowers to actually be on that larger mint piece on the base. So I'm just going to play with these just a little bit more, and then I am going to start putting the buttons in the center to try and see which buttons I want where. So there are a couple of buttons that the centers weren't all the way poked through, so I just used my paper piercer to poke those wooden pieces out. And then I'm going to now use liquid adhesive to glue all those centers down. Really easy, dries really fast. And then I also pulled some yellow thread from my stash, and I included a thread jumble in the top right, and then kind of in the center, and then at the bottom left. So on some of these flowers, I am just using liquid adhesive. On the ones that go over the photos that have some 3D foam adhesive on the back, I am using some 3D foam adhesive, and I'm just making sure I put that adhesive on the layout base, so it will pop that portion of the flower that's off the photo, and so it'll be equal depth, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to finish up this last flower right there, and then I'm going to pull out the May 2020 stamp of the month. It is a stamp set full of sentiments, both typewritten and maybe a little bit of calligraphy. It's just, I love all the different fonts, but it's also got some icons. So on this little stitched X's, you've seen me do that on another project or two. I've just added those in the corners with sapphire ink. And then it has 3 sizes of hearts. So I'm just taking that medium size heart, inking it up in smoothie ink, and just stamping a few of those hearts off. And then I'm going to pull it out again. I really don't find any other places to put it. So that is the layout. And I will leave links to my Design Space as well as the Stitch Together line and the May stamp of the month. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. Please consider subscribing and signing up for notifications, as well as checking out the other projects that I've made using the Everyday Moments Cricut Collection from close to my heart.